So,
All right.
hi everyone, I am Pratham and today we'll be talking to Prajwal. Prajwal is a second year BBA LLB student from JGLS. Hi Prajwal.
Hi, Pratap. Thank
Hi.
you for having me over.
Hi. So, could you tell the viewers a bit about yourself first and like your journey from high school to JGLS?
All right.
Yeah.
So my name is Kajal Totla, as introduced, and so I'm currently in my second year law at JGLS, and I'm doing the course of BBLLB honors. And my journey has been a very smooth and a very transforming one, to be honest, because I was a very introverted and not so active student back in high school. I would merely stick to my academics, and that's about it. But from the moment I've stepped into JGU and JGLS, it's just been transformative in the sense that I've become a lot more social. I've become an extrovert, which I never thought I had it in me. And more importantly, I've opened and exposed myself to so many various dynamics of various activities, not just restricting myself to academics. And this is also because JGLS offers such a wide and diversified ranges of extracurriculars and co-curriculars that you get to do. And I, as an enthusiastic first year, tried to take every possible opportunity I had, from being on the society board of a few non-profit organizations, from mooting, and I recently am doing an international moot, and then to area competitions, debates, and just everything there is. So it's been a good journey so far. It's been a very learning and a holistic experience, and I hope it develops further more through my 3 years at law school.
Cool. Right. First and foremost, we would like to know a bit about your course. Like BBLLB is not a course which is frequent in universities. Like most of the NLUs we see, they only offer BALLB or the 3 year LLB course, right? So, could you tell the viewers a bit about BBLLB and what subjects are taught in BBLLB?
All right, so BBLLB is more like a new concept or a new additional course introduced in law to the traditional one of BLLB. And personally, of my personal opinion, I feel that BBLLB is for someone who's interested in the commerce field and someone who seems its career lie in the corporate sector rather than the litigation sector. It's a it's a more practical and it's a more career suited course for them. And the subjects studied are generally on the commerce sector, like accounts, economics, marketing management, principles of management. So basically, it gives you a very thorough understanding of how a company or an organization functions. So you not only know your role as a legal advisor in that field, but also as an organizational member in the company you're working as. So that's one huge advantage. And at this point, I would also like to take a moment to remove the taboo that BLLB is a superior course than the BBALLB. Well, like a lot of opinion exists, but to be very honest, it depends on your interest. If your interest lies
Right.
in BA, then that's the best course. But if your interest lies in BBA, please don't shy out to take it just because it's like a I don't know, not so famous course. The only reason why BA has been the priority is because it's the first initial course which law came out with. That was the first combination, and that has been running through ages at this point.
Right.
So yeah, that's both are at equal footing. Both open different avenues to different careers. So make an informed choice. Don't just go by a general mindset.
Right. And like, what are some? You could you give us some examples about of the subjects that are different from BALLB in BBLLB?
So like BA subjects are more theoretical.
Yeah.
Like they have Marxist psychology and all the sociology and everything.
Right.
It's more like psychology and theoretical
Right.
based
Right.
subjects. But whereas BBA have more like practical subjects. We, on the other hand, have like organizational accounts of the companies are maintained, at the same time how the economics of an organization works, to the extent as to how people in the organization behave.
Right.
So It's so the main one point difference would be that the BA people study society at the general, at large, the general behaviors and the general customs which prevail and how they prevail. We study very organization specific as to how it goes in a commerce run industry and a common commerce based or
Right.
business based organization. So that's about it.
So it's more like the difference between commerce and humanities, right?
Mostly, yeah.
Mostly.
That would be, yeah,
Yeah, that would sum it up. Right.
mostly.
Yeah. So next thing, how is the student body and the overall atmosphere like at JGLS?
So it's a very diversified student body. There you'll find someone from every walk of life, and you'll find every kind of person, from the most smartest to the most enthusiast, to the most chilled out people. There's everything. Like there, because JG offers such a wide range of things, there's people taking it also are so diverse. And the general student body, if you're asking me in terms of academics, well, there are a few people who do not associate themselves or do not interest themselves with academics because they're more interested towards the co-curriculars or the sports part.
Right.
But there are a lot of people at the same time who do exceptionally well at academics and have been a constant enthusiast about researching under professors, teaching, being a teaching assistant, and everything.
Right.
So that way, to sum it up, the crowd is diversified and they are very informed in the sense they choose whatever they want to do. They don't do it because it's probably a good thing to do. So that's one good thing I kind of personally appreciate about people at Jindal.
Right. Fine. So how would you describe the faculty at JGLS?
So by far, the faculty is the best, and I don't think so. It is anywhere disputed. The faculty is not only highly qualified. I guess every second faculty is from Harvard, Oxford, Stanford, Cambridge, which is just like probably a minimum qualification at this point. But more so from the academic qualification, they are very, very broad-minded and super new with their teaching techniques. Like never remember having a traditional class taught, and like as a law school, you would imagine. We have movie screenings every second classes. We have mock trials wherein we ourselves simulate and try to act advocates in that particular case and try to come up with reasonings, and it's a very very independent teaching style. Every professor has their own liberty to choose what they want. Few professors do not believe in examinations, so we do not have examinations. We have on their alternative either research papers or very practical case studies and everything. So that way, the main highlight would be the faculty body and how approachable they are. So in my personal experience as a first year itself, I got 2 or 3 research assistantship under professors of great qualification, which I don't really imagine having that opportunity in any other school. So thereby, so like not only are they super academically sound, but also they're super friendly and super approachable, and they help you with everything. Like even for your co-curriculars, let's say moot, you want help, they're there. If you want like a research paper or your publications which you need guidance from, they help you with that. And generally, if you want to like, if you're strongly inclined towards one particular area and they teach that area, they let you be their research assistant. Obviously, if you meet certain criteria, but that's a great factor. And a faculty is like, if you, the faculty is a big attraction for anyone who wants to come here.
Right. So means it's like completely different from the mainstream, the lecture system we get in colleges.
Definitely.
It's completely
Like, I guess the word global in the general global
Yeah,
gospel
yeah.
just there's no like you'll never feel like you're in an Indian university.
Sure.
Very honestly.
That's very nice. So, what about the attendance rules for lectures? Like, are there any sort of restrictions or?
So that's the again best part. There's no minimum attendance criteria. We don't have marks for attendance like other NLUs, because we strictly like we believe that You cannot force someone to attend classes. If he likes the subject, he'll consciously make it. If he doesn't, there's no point having a person disinterested in your subject.
Absolutely.
So that way, the only minimum criteria that you need to have a minimum 75% attendance to sit for examinations, which is a very easy criteria to meet. But upon that, there's no criteria. You can have the lowest attendance and still score the highest marks in your classes. And it's not something looked down upon, or it's not something which professors hold grudges to, because it's widely acceptable that you have a lot of other things to do. So because the fact that academic attendance is not necessary, you have chances to explore yourself at other things at the time your classes are also going on. You don't really have to sit at every class, because if you sit for every class, you substantially reduce the time you have for other stuff.
Right.
So that way, it's very understandable. In the sense, I personally, this semester there were 3 subjects which I was personally good at because I've studied them in my 12th, mainly the BBA subjects. So I haven't been really attending those classes because I was focusing on my moot court competitions, and that's completely fine. I'm still in touch with what's happening, and neither of the professors hold any complaints or any judges on you. That's a great advantage to have.
Right. Perfect. So, how is your schedule like on a regular college day? Like, except for these Corona times, like how much free time do you get to yourselves?
So, to be very honest, there's no one fixed schedule which one follows. Everyone has their own different schedule tailored to their needs and interests. And one, like JGU is open 24/7. There's probably no time where the campus sleeps. You'll always find someone doing something or the other. And yeah, so you balance and there's no like one fixed schedule you can have in all days. There are like all of some of the other events happening. Some surprise things comes up, some new deadline comes up, so you just plan it on that very day and that very moment.
Right.
You cannot go with a fixed schedule. But coming to the fact of chill time and free time, you honestly, like, if you make time, you have a lot of time to hang it out, at the same time do well at stuffs you're doing. Personally, between classes, you have like 20-25 minutes break to get coffee, to get food. After each class, you have like a 2-hour break. You can go hang out there, you can go back and sleep. I personally do that. And after the classes end, you can chill around in the field, you can go play a sport, you can go hang around with your friends or just roam around. And then again, the night is all yours, you can do whatever you want.
So, like, what is the timing? What are the timings for the classes? Like, from morning to the afternoon. What are the timings?
There's no very fixed timing. My personal section, like, there's sometimes the classes starts at 8, sometimes they start at 9:30, sometimes they start at 10:40, and accordingly they sometimes end at 1:20 itself, sometime at 4, some classes go till 9. So it's a very dynamic schedule is what I'm trying to put across.
Right.
You manage it on and spot, and that's another good skill that you learn.
Right.
Very dynamic.
Right. So, speaking of free time, so what activities and what all extracurriculars or co-curriculars does JGU offer?
Everything you can imagine, to be very honest. I being 1 year at JGU, I don't remember all activities. It's that much, but the most highlighted one, there's a swimming pool. There's like a huge field you can do. You can play football or you can play cricket or whatever. There are cricketing nets. There's a basketball court. There are hockey. There are hockey grounds, and there's table tennis. There's long tennis, and currently they came up with cycle polo. And there's an indoor a ground which has like indoor room which has like foosball and pool, billiards, and just fun TV watching and carom. So that way you have a lot of facilities which you won't really like can imagine at other places. And even if not, there's a very large open green area where you can just go around with your friends, sit down, have a very peaceful time, have some coffee with you, and have fun.
Right.
And so free time is not to worry. We're very well sorted.
Sure. So, what about the fests and the overall culture? Like, I believe there are two fests at JGU.
So
Yeah.
there are two flagship fests, but small little events keep happening every weekend in and thereby we have a very strong cultural society which
Yeah.
makes sure we have something or the other to keep ourselves entertained.
Right.
Talking about the two flagship fests, one flagship fest, which is the cultural fest, that's Bispa happens in the fall semester, that is around October, November,
Right.
wherein people from every part of India come across, have some competitions there, DJ nights, and a lot of fun activities. The
Right.
other flagship fest is Magnus, which happens in the spring inductions around spring semester around April, which is a sports fest. So has a lot of sporting activities and at the same time coupled with cultural activities like DJ nights and music nights and dance nights, everything like that.
Like,
And apart from that, yeah, we have like we have Nasruddin Shah coming in for a performance. We have
oh,
other actors. We have good classical singers, dancers, a lot of stuff. We have our own dance society and music society which performs regularly on certain occasions to keep ourselves entertained.
right.
There's also this concept as called the open mic, wherein
Okay.
it's just a mic put up in a
Yeah.
hangout wherein people can just go up and sing and people cheer up. So that's a good thing that happens.
Right.
And we also have a ball kind of a thing
Yeah.
every spring semester. That's another thing people want to look up to, if at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. So, and coming to the societies and clubs that you mentioned, where does JGU stand with the number of societies and clubs? Like, there are numerous societies and clubs I've heard. So, could you
Again,
maybe
I cannot.
list a few? Could you maybe?
Yeah, again, I don't remember everything.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
but JJLS specific, there's the Mood Good Society, there's the Alternate Dispute Resolution Society, there's a client counseling society,
Right.
there's a debate society, there's a legal aid clinic wherein they take up pro bono cases, file petitions to high courts, Supreme Court. They have recently written a draft, a petition to the Chief Justice of India, which is being heard. And then there's the legal entrepreneurship cell wherein they take clients pro bono cases. And these are very little law centric. Apart from that, there's societies as Enactis, which I was the general secretary of, which is a self-help. It's like a non-profit organization,
Right.
which is a social service cell. There's a Rotaract Club for social service again.
Right.
There's Diplomania, which factors in for international relations and similar activities. Oh yeah, so coming
So,
to non-academic societies, there's
yeah.
the theater society, non-performing arts society,
Right.
dance society, music society, for sure.
Right. So, I think you mentioned that you are participating in a moot, right? So, do you get opportunities for participating in moots like from the first year itself, or from means
Right.
subsequent years?
So many universities start from that first semester itself, but JGU opens up the mooting opportunity from the second semester of your first year. So that's the spring semester, which has approximately 4 to 5 international moots and like 15-20 national moots.
Right.
And the international moots are like there are two Grand Slams moot in there, like the Oxford Prize Law moot and the FDI International Arbitration moot, which I'm doing.
Right.
So if you get a good rank around the top 10 to top 8 people giving that inductions, you definitely get to go for that moot irrespective which year you're in.
Right.
And the second big inductions happen in the fall semester, which is your second year first semester,
Right.
wherein you have roughly around 12 international modes or 12 to 14 international modes with 4 to 5 Grand Slams mode like Jazza, Wiz,
Right.
ICC, and a lot of national modes. And again, there is no distinction of which year you're in. Unless you get a very good rank, you can go for any mode you want. That's about it. But there are frequent workshops. The workshops of Mood Society can be attended by anyone, even if you're in your first semester. But you can give inductions only from your second semester.
Right. Awesome. So, what about the location? Like JGU is means it's an outer location, right? So it's on the highway. So, what are the pros and cons for that? Like, there's a significant distance to the airport and the metro. So, what are the pros and cons for that?
Yeah. So, yeah, it is on the outskirts of Delhi Haryana border. It's in Sonipat,
Right.
which is a not so developed area.
Right.
But to be very honest, I'll start off by saying that you don't really need anything outside campus. The campus is very self-sustaining. It has all the brands you need from food like Subway, Domino's, Moti Mahal to every activity you need on campus. So, and now they're recently expanding it to some 300 acres campus. So that's another highlight of it. So that way, the campus, like you don't really feel the need to go out unless you're a very travel enthusiast. So, but if at all you choose to go out, there are a few small malls like the TDI Mall, which is near our campus. There's a few cafes which open near our campus. But again, it's not that great compared to the Delhi ones. So Jindal has a shuttle running every day, very frequently, every hour to the Haidarpur metro station, which is like a 45-minute or 50-minute drive from campus.
Right.
And to drop you off at the Haidarpur metro station, which is a Delhi metro station, and the Delhi metro connectivity is brilliant. Like from Haidarpur, you can reach to any part of Delhi with absolutely no problem.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have luggage, you're just sorted. You can just like
Sure.
roam around, and it's very cheap. So the shuttle charges are just $100, and it's a very good shuttle. They drop you off, and then wherever you want to go, you can go. And very specifically to the airport part, though there are like taxis which drop you off directly to Jindal.
Right.
But if you want to choose a cheaper option of metro, there is a very direct connectivity. You take a metro till Haidarpur and take off a shuttle after that. They have provisions to keep excess luggage also.
Right.
So that's really sorted as well.
That's very good. That's very good. So, coming to the residential concept, how are the students allotted the rooms, and like what are the basic amenities provided, like laundry and stuff?
So to be very honest, I don't have to say it. I guess it's very understood. It's a very luxurious service.
Right.
The hostels are probably the best you can imagine in a university.
Right.
It have a very comfortable bed and very spacious room, and yeah, it's an air conditioned room with like it's a very good room you would want to have as an hostel, very home like.
Right.
And the hostel allocating basis is firstly like when you join in, you don't really know a lot of people, so they distribute it according to like the sections you are in and the school you're in. They make sure that like you don't have clashing timetables.
Right.
Everyone is in a different section with different timetable. They try to ensure that. And if you're not comfortable with the roommate you've been allocated, you have very well the opportunity to change it at any point. You don't have to wait for a year or a semester to get over. You don't feel comfortable, you go say to the warden, he immediately acts on it and changes and gives you a better room. And if you already are going with a set of people who you want to room up with, you say it at the time of allocating, and they allocate you that way.
Okay.
So that's about it. And the facilities, we have laundry facilities free of cost. They dry clean your stuffs and give it to you. And we have room cleaning. You can order. So we have an app called Callpole wherein you could book room service for free. You could ask for pest control or repairing of any fan or AC if it just goes down. And then there is food services if at all you get sick. They deliver food to your home, your room.
Yeah.
And there are just vending machines up and in every corridor. You can just go grab something. And there's a common room in every hostel.
Right.
When you have this all little activities, you can do like foosball, billiards, TV, watch football matches or cricket matches, whatever you like.
Right.
So yeah, that's a fun little thing in hostel.
Right.
Like,
And
trust me, your hostel life would be something you would want to look forward to.
yeah, sure, sure.
You'll have the most craziest and memorable memories.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there would also be like some crazy rituals or traditions among hostelers, like celebrating birthdays in a special way, right? Yeah,
Yeah, so there's all this egging, cake
yeah,
smashing,
yeah, yeah.
and so that there's just fun things to look up to. Please don't dread that. You will always remember the birthday celebration that way.
Right.
So there's this place called Amul wherein they specifically make cakes to smash on your face, which is just filled with cream and
Okay.
no weight at all. So that's like anyone's birthday, you order a cake from there, and they give you like so much extra whipping cream to just put it on the head,
Right.
and then yeah,
Right.
that's about it. And but the best part, like you, all this happens in the night, and in the morning you're like, oh, there's nothing happened itself because they just clean it up very
Right.
quickly. The room service people and the maintenance people are very nice that way, and they're very friendly too.
That's awesome.
So
That's awesome.
yeah,
So, like, the next question is a question which not only the students ask but also their parents. Like, what about the food at the mess? Like, the number of meals, is it veg or non-veg? Like, optional, or and about the hygiene and stuff. So, could you elaborate upon that?
right.
Yeah.
So maths is something great, and I don't think so anyone. You would obviously crib that, oh, it's a math thing, but that's probably the best math you can possibly find.
Right.
It's absolutely hygienic, like everyone. Though all it's run by very good company, and I'm sure food is not only hot but very well kept, and they just keep cleaning things even if they spill this a bit. So hygiene is not something you need to worry at all. And coming to the variety of food, like dude, you have like a buffet spread out with 16 dishes in every meal, and that is something you cannot ask anything more at. So there's like 4 meals a day starting from breakfast. You have a lot of options. So this is not only to suit people needs from different regions of the country, but also their body requirements. Like few people who want proteins, you have option of eggs, boiled eggs, omelette. Few people who just want to eat basically, you just have like hot milk, cold milk, choice of cereals. Who just want to have like a heavy breakfast, we have parathas and uh, bread omelets, cheese, French toast, and everything. And that's breakfast for you. After that, you have lunch, which again has a huge amount of spread, starting from like a 4 or 5 dishes of continental dishes,
Right.
5 6 Indian dishes with curry, 2 gravies, rice, dry gravy,
Right.
then 2 3 Chinese dishes, and then there's like 2 3 desserts also, plus a drink. That's dinner, that's lunch for you, and that's like funny. You just keep having this fancy stuffs every second day. Then snacks, you have like two snack items like either kachori, samosa, bread pakoda, or whatever with tea, coffee.
Right.
And then now again you have like 16 or 17 varieties of option with again Indian, continental, Chinese, sweets, salads, drinks.
Right. Fantastic.
So yeah, but very special question that no, non-veg is not served in the mess, but non-veg is available in the food court and all other outlets. So
Right.
food-wise, the mess obviously serves you good, healthy food, but obviously if you get bored eating it, you have a very good food court to go at.
Yeah.
Again, food is everything. There's a pizza joint, there's a Indian joint, there's a Chinese joint, there's a Subway joint.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, in fact, that was my next question about like the food court and like what are the timings for the food court? Like, is it open 24/7, or like do the students get some particular timings or like school wise or something like that?
Right. So probably there's nothing in JG which is restricted to a time. The food court starts and I guess the last thing they serve is at around 2 a.m. or yeah, 2 a.m. Obviously, like the workers
Right.
also need to
Right.
sleep.
Right.
And yeah, there's no restriction. You can even go food court during your classes. Not recommended,
Right.
but
Right.
you can ask the professor that, sir, I'm feeling hungry. Can I grab something? And they'll let you go. And you can have something packed or you can have it there. And this is a one major food court. So we have like a proper food court wherein there's a lot of joints. And there's like 5, 6 different just outlets in different part of campus where they just serve like snacks. Like there's
Right.
Amul chai wherein you get spring rolls, French fries,
Right.
sandwiches, burgers, and tea coffee.
Right.
Something like Tapri, which you get Maggie and everything.
Right.
There's Everfresh where you get healthy juices and snacks. So that way you have like a lot of variety to fish around. You don't really get bored of eating it outside. And
Right.
even if not, there's this things like hot oven pizza, which serves great pizza. Definitely recommended if you join. So they deliver on campus. There's this Jor Cafe. They deliver on campus. And if not, like you have this particular brand, if you want to eat, Amazon delivers. Order it on Amazon, you get it within a day or two, and
Right.
yeah, that's.
Fantastic. So,
Oh yeah, I would, if I can expand, like I would expand that the
yeah,
delivery
sure.
option. So there's this full day delivery thing open. Like there's a place where people from Flipkart, Amazon, Nykaa, Myntra would just come and take your orders and sit there. You can come after your classes, collect it, and go. So that's
Wow.
also very well thought out.
Wow. Nice. So, like the food court that you mentioned, like it is spread throughout the college. Like, so are there any food courts like around the residential complexes? Like, if you're studying at night, so and you want to grab a bite, so
Right.
yeah,
So one is the closest thing is your vending machine. It
yeah,
has a good collection of chips, coffee, and
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Then near the boy hostel, there's Everfresh and Amul, where
Okay.
you can grab a bite. Near the girl hostel, there is Tapri Chai, and yeah, the center of the campus has food court.
Right.
Again, I would also like to highlight that something like a Moti Mahal and
Right.
Punjab, they have very subsidized rate. Otherwise, it would be very costly.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
maybe you get Moti Mahal on
Yeah.
campus would cost 150 to 160,
Yeah.
which is a very decent price to pay, and it's amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, like, what about the other amenities like the libraries, the computer labs, and the gyms? So, what do they also have a timing, or could you tell a bit about them?
Right.
Yeah.
So again, the gym I guess is open for. It's only closed from 12 in the night to 6 in the morning,
Yeah.
and it's a very good gym. Like it's a very sophisticated gym with
Right.
all top class and company mechanisms.
Right.
Haven't really been. I'm not a very gym enthusiastic.
All right.
And with respect to library, there are two big libraries. One is the global library where which is open only till 10 in the night, till 12 in the night.
Yeah.
There's a reference library which is also open only till 12 in the night, but they open up early. But there's this global reading room which is open 24/7,
Right.
and it's a very fancy room which has flags of all countries across your side, has a UN symbol in the center, and it's a very nice place. So if you're not a person who studies in your hostel and you want to study late night, you could go there and study. It's totally safe, very well lit. Like the whole campus is lit at every time. And yeah, there are sofas, there are benches, there are pullback seats and everything. So that's also very comfortable.
Right.
And generally, few people like to. It's not really recognized, but few people like to sit and study in the corridors. So that's also allowed. There's nothing restricted.
Right. So,
Yeah.
next up, coming to the lecture halls, like as I've seen in many videos, there are like various types of lecture halls, like the oval shaped room and the. So, is it like classified according to the capacity or something else?
So I don't think so. It's classified. I guess just year wise
Right.
and class wise. So generally, it's your semicircle classroom, so that the teacher gets to face everyone.
Right.
And it's a very well seated arrangement. The oval classes are generally for courses which requires constant interaction within the students. So like they can face each other, the students themselves, and can talk amongst themselves. That's for that purpose. And the general lecture halls with one single line is for people for certain classes which are taken combinedly with two sections, if at all it happens.
Right.
Or generally, if the class size is just more than 60,
Yeah.
it happens in 1-2 sections. So that's about it. But otherwise, yeah. you have one fixed classroom, but if at all you want to have like a switch of a specific classroom, you always have the option. You can book a specific classroom for that day, and you can go have your lecture there and come back. So that's about it. You
Right.
can have it. There's no like restriction for that.
Okay, so next up, what are the credits and exam systems at JGLS? Like, could you and also the elective courses, like I've read on the website, like what are they?
Credit courses, your main courses are 4 credits each, irrespective of BBA law.
Right.
That's 4 credits each, and your electives are 2 credits each. There's a minimum set of credits which you need to have after you've completed, like at the end of your 5 years to get the degree,
Right.
which is a normal minimum. Like, which if you do all your main courses and necessary electives, you get it, not a problem. With respect to exams, there are intern is totally left to the professors as to how they want to do it. Not really like it is, oh, do you want a research paper or how, and they can even divide the internal components of 50 marks into like 10 different things or 5 different things or 2 main things. So that's very professor specific, and we have a lot of fun doing internals. Like we get a wide variety of things to do. With respect to NSAMs, which is for 50 marks, that is a written down exam, wherein it's a 3 hour written down exam, and the only leeway is that few heavy courses wherein you need more application, they're given open book. Like few law subjects are given open book, wherein you can just read up few and apply it, because it's all hypothetical. You really can't copy paste from any book you want. And yeah, so that's about it. All the end semester exams are not like mugging up a theoretical answer. They are also very application based questions. You
Right.
always get a hypothetical which you need to apply your reasoning law to.
Right.
That
Like
is,
finding
and you
out
also have
loopholes and
a
stuff.
2 month. Sorry.
Like finding out loopholes and stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wherever you feel they were.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you also have a 2 month study period, which is another JGLS JGU exclusive feature.
Yeah.
You have like 2 weeks period wherein you don't have classes or nothing, and you just have a revision time for yourself to study for the exams.
What is it?
So that is something great. A lot of people pick up their materials then and go through intensely. That's about it. And coming to electives, your electives start from 3rd year, like any other law school. And though you have a minimum set of electives you need to take, there's no upper limit, in the sense like even if you cannot put it officially, you can always audit a course, and this can start, the auditing of course can start from your 1st year. Like there, even if you're not in a particular class, you can just go sit in their lectures and attend it. No one's going to mind. So if I'm a 1st year student and interested in international public law, I can go sit in that lecture, have it go around their whole course, but just not give the exams. And though obviously I can't say that it won't go on my transcript, but I'll get the knowledge which other people
It's
are.
like completely up to the student.
Right. And this auditing course is interdisciplinary. Like you can go audit a course from the business school or the international school or the environmental school. So there's no restriction for auditing.
Right.
But like how well you can manage your time to get audit courses, the better you are.
Right. So
Yeah.
now coming to the admission process, like how was your journey through LSAT?
Right. So to be very honest, I found LSAT to be a great exam, like an exam which actually tests your aptitude rather than your memory, like CLAT.
Right.
Personally, I wasn't really a big fan of CLAT, wherein I thought you needed a lot of mugging up of general knowledge and mathematics and everything.
Right.
LSAT just goes away with all of it, and it's a totally aptitude based exam, wherein, and the best part is you don't really have a lot of things to prepare. You just take like 4-5 mocks of LSAT before you go, and you're good to go. And it's a very aptitude based question. It's as to what do you think at that moment. All MCQ questions, mark it up, and you get a percentile. If you cut off through the percentile which Jindal sets every year, you get it. And like I had got a 98 percentile, so I was eligible for scholarship.
Right.
So Jindal also has a lot of scholarship which you can apply for, which
Right.
again is based on your LSAT percentile and the criteria they keep revising every year.
Right. So
So yeah,
that was what my next question was about actually. Like, what is the fee structure and the financial aid structure for JGLS?
right. So the fee is around 5 lakh, and the tuition fee is around 5,20,000,
Yeah.
and hostel and mess fees around 2,20,000 something, which
Yeah.
totally adds up to 8 lakh
Yeah.
20,000-30,000
Yeah.
for a year. And the financial aids are first on your merit scholarship based on your LSAT score. Second is your need scholarship. If you are if you really need financial assistance and aids and you can't afford the full salary,
Right.
you bring it up to the notice of the finance committee.
Right.
They look into it, and if they found okay, you really are in need of such financial help, they readily provide you with that.
Right.
And third, scholarship is which happens after your first year, in your second year.
Right.
There is another merit scholarship which they give you on the basis of your performance in your first year. Like if they see you've done great amount of work and have proved your self to be a competent student and a person who could further the objectives of JGU, they further provide you that financial aspects.
Right.
But again, the scholarship is capped to a certain income bracket, wherein if you exceed let's say 50 lakhs income salary, you won't be provided scholarship because fair enough, you don't really
Right.
need it.
Right.
So yeah. Also at this point, to be very honest, 8 lakh 10,000 or 20,000 in
Yeah.
opposed to NLUs will look a lot.
Yeah.
But from my personal experience, if you're someone who can afford such payment, don't really think about it.
Yeah.
It's not a huge amount. It looks on paper, but it's definitely worth it. You'll extract benefits way more than the monetary terms.
Great.
So yeah, if you can afford it, there's nothing.
Yeah, so I've talked before to others also, and means the only con that Jindal has, according to you, is if you can afford it or not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very honest. I wouldn't suggest for someone to. So to be very honest, it would require an investment of 40-50 lakhs in your 5 years.
Absolutely.
And if you're someone who can't afford, and please don't take loan for your undergrad,
sure.
it is not really recommended. So if unfortunately you cannot afford, then it makes sense to opt for another universities, let's say NLUs or other private universities. But
Sure.
if you're someone you have a decent financial backing,
Sure.
and then it's absolutely no second thoughts.
Right. So now coming to the placement system, how is the placements and what is the ratio of students going for placements or for further studies or for research programs?
Right. So we have a very active body called the Office of Career Service,
Right.
wherein they from your very first year they actively help you to seek internships and whatever different kind of internships, help you through your internship. They give you etiquettes as to how to behave in an internship and everything. So that's one help you get an OCS. And in your fourth year, they also organize a 0 day wherein companies come in for pre-placement offers, and people who want to practice in law, they sit for interviews, and if they get in, they get a pre-placement offers even before getting a degree, which is a great thing to do. Then at the end of fifth year, there are 2 rounds of placement which happens, and again, all top law firms come from Sadhula Merchant, CAM, Khaitan, Valley, which is not to mention, to every other research associate and associate partners. Even they come in, they take up people who they feel right for that year, and people sit for interviews and they get in. A lot of people, so here's the thing, a lot of people at Jindal don't even opt out for higher studies. So the placement ratio that way might look down, but that's not because that's mainly because people opt for higher studies more than opting out for jobs initially, because JGU has a lot of foreign tie-ups and can help you get a good higher education, facilitate you.
Right.
obviously your competence overrides it.
Right.
So a lot of people apply to Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, and they do get in also. We have a lot of alumni there,
Right.
and few people start up their own things. Uh, Around a lot of JGU alumni have started their own startups, have done well with that. So yeah, it's a very diverse thing. Few people just take a break as to what they want to do and figure it out later.
Right.
A few people are just rich enough to have all the connection they need. They don't really need
Right.
anything,
Right.
so they don't even try. So
Right.
that's about it. So it's like a diversified thing when it comes to placement. Also,
Yeah.
you choose according to your need and you get assisted accordingly.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
means like as you said that the startups and entrepreneurship you mentioned, right? So does JGU also have like an entrepreneurship or incubation culture or incubation like something like that?
So we have a startup JGU society wherein
Right.
if you have an idea, you come up, discuss with like-minded people, and you develop it.
Right.
So that's the incubation center, which is more for the business school.
Right.
But generally, you get a lot of assistance from your respective professors, because a lot of professors have their own chains running,
Right.
and they really do guide you well. So that's the culture you have.
Right. So, any message that you would like to give to students who would be coming to JGU like the next year or around 2021 or 2022?
Right, like there are a lot of advices I would want to give you.
Sure.
Firstly, that um, make an informed choice. Don't go in a blind-headed that NLUs, NLS, NALSA, and if not, I come to JGLS. It's a very traditional thing, and you must realize things have evolved over time. And make an informed choice as to what kind of a person you are and what university fits you right. You won't understand at this point, but you realize NLS is vastly, very substantially different from how JGLS functions. So if you're a person who doesn't really bestows with too much academic pressure, it doesn't make sense. So I'm not, please, I'm not refraining for you to do well at NLU. Like never, like it's your choice. But all I'm saying is make an informed choice. Look up the websites of each university you're applying to. Check what are their research centers there, how professors are there, and if you're like a super focused kid who have a very particular area of law right from the start, look up for those professors in that area, how well qualified they are, how much assistance you can get there. So yeah, just make an informed choice. Don't go by a brand name from your like don't let the brand name delusion you, if that's the word.
Right.
And secondly, come with an open mindset to whichever university you go. Like wherever you land up, you will have certain set of opportunities, certain set of things you want to capitalize on. So go with an open mind, go with an enthusiastic feel, and try and make the best of the place you are at.
Right.
Don't like the comparison should stop after you get a university. It's fine. You just have to focus on what best you can do at that particular university. And lastly, is that don't think too far. Everything happens, and it sounds philosophical, but everything will happen as and when you go through it. It's okay to not know what you want to do after 5 years of law, or why do you want to do law. Unless you feel okay, this is something where I belong, just try it out. And trust me, in the time of your law school, you will you will encounter so many wide things, so many different opinions, and you will develop it for yourself. So it's okay to not know where you're going in the larger run, but just have few small short-term focuses, and you'll be fine. Like don't stress out on what you too much. You'll all be fine. That's all.
Thanks a lot.